They told us the cameras caught him twice. Once leaving South Quad at 1:13 a.m., and again 40 minutes later at the corner where State Street slides downhill toward the river. In both clips, Lucas wears the same gray hoodie and a grin that's half apology, half dare. He's on the phone. He's nodding. He cups a hand to his ear like the night is loud, though campus at that hour sounds like a refrigerator. Humming. Self-involved. I was the one on duty that night. Resident advisor, second floor east. So the emails came to me first. Subject, welfare concern. Then, urgent, missing person. The university has a font for emergencies. It looks the way antiseptic smells. People say he met someone. The second clip shows him angled toward a shadow, someone off camera that the streetlight refuses to name. Then Lucas pockets his phone, and the grin goes dark, and he steps out of the frame like a person leaving through the wrong door. No one has seen him since. My job training never mentioned what to do when a resident leaves the building like a rumor. They prepared me for roommate disputes and plug drains and finals week crying. They told me what to do if someone stops answering knocks, if a vape triggers the smoke alarm, if a winter storm turns the world into a quiet accusation. No one taught me how to write an incident report that begins, I heard him laugh from the stairwell, and then I didn't. That night smelled like cheap laundry pods and damp coats. January breathing under the doors. I sat behind the RA desk with my socked feet on the rolling chair bar and highlighted names on the winter weekend checkouts list. Lucas had signed out at 12:47 a.m. to grab food, which is what first years write when they're going somewhere they don't want an adult to bless. I drew a yellow line over his name as if light could anchor it. He had waved on his way past, hoodie strings in his mouth, eyes warm. He had said, "Be right back," which is a promise so ordinary it feels like furniture. The camera caught him at 1:13 a.m. The corner caught him at 1:53 a.m. The night swallowed him at a time the footage refuses to admit. I used to believe footage was a kind of truth. Now I know it's a mirror with preferences. If a hallway knows your laugh and still can't keep you, what does that make the people who sign for your safety with a laminated lanyard? I'm Naomi, 21, junior. I study linguistics because words misbehave, and I find that comforting. Being an RA means I trade sleep for free housing and pretend authority. My floor? 2 long corridors that smell like noodle soup and dry erase marker holds 36 versions of recently independent. I memorize their names the way other people memorize songs. It makes me feel useful. I didn't apply for RA because I love rules. I applied because last year, when I was just another door with a sticker on it, my own RA, Hannah, walked me back to the world after a night when my chest turned into a locked drawer. No drama. She made me tea. She handed me a peanut butter cup. She said, "Stay." That word kept me. So I wanted a lanyard that could say it to someone else. South Quad is a brick rectangle with a kind heart. The lobby carpet is always a little damp from people who pretend winter isn't a policy. The front desk has a drawer full of Band-Aids and a drawer full of confiscated Nerf darts. My RA radio crackles like a tiny storm cloud attached to a clip. The boiler hisses. On Fridays, the pizza smell announces itself 2 minutes before the delivery guy. Lucas moved in August with a skateboard and a suitcase full of clothes that didn't know how to fold. He was from a lake town up north that he talked about like a teammate. Fond, exasperated, loyal. His mom brought a tub of cookies big enough to qualify for its own major. When she left, he cried the way good sons do. Quickly, privately, like paying a bill. Then he made friends with 3 doors at once. And by September, there was always laughter in my hallway, whose letters I could identify blind. KKKH for inside jokes, haha for surprise, the breathy near-silent exhale for we got away with it. He wasn't trouble. He was gravity, the kind that keeps other objects in their orbits. He helped move couches through doorways they were never intended to meet. He learned the name of the custodian who knows which vending machines lie. He taped an index card to his door that said, "If found, return to Lucas," and I didn't have the heart to tell him clauses don't work like that. I keep a small ledger of residents in my head. who always needs quarters, who hoards dining hall apples, who pretends they're fine until midnight. Lucas needed nothing until the week after winter break, when a girl from another floor started appearing at his doorway like a sentence finally deciding on its subject. Her name was Shay, computer science, hair the color of expensive chocolate, a laugh like static. They weren't together, they told me, which is a phrase that always comes with blush. By mid-January, the campus slept in layers. Your breath left your face and turned into a small ghost for a second. The river wore a glass hat it wasn't committed to. I logged 2 noise complaints, 1 broken microwave, 3 wellness checks. I forgot my scarf twice. I learned to love the smell of wool. The night Lucas disappeared, I had a linguistics problem set open behind the check-in screen. Disambiguate the sentence, they saw her duck. I had underlined duck and written noun, verb, and I was thinking about the way a sentence can be 2 things at once and still pass for communication when Lucas waved and said his ordinary promise. He slipped into the stairwell and the door swung back like an inhalation. At 1:40 a.m., I made rounds. Stairs, bathroom, lounges, the quiet study with the fish tank that keeps weird hours. The vending machine ate $1 for the 3rd night in a row. I thumped it with the heel of my hand and felt important. In the east stairwell, I smelled cold air, which meant someone had propped the exit for a smoke or secret. I closed it and relocked it with the key blue with cold, then wrote resecured in my log like a person who could. I didn't know the camera across the street would catch Lucas tilting his head like he was listening to the end of a song. I didn't know a shadow would enter the bottom of the frame and stop exactly far enough away to be polite and menacing. I didn't know Lucas would step toward it like you do when the person you've been expecting finally arrives. What I did know was the sound the ice made in the river later when I couldn't sleep. A creak, a distant crack like furniture adjusting to a story. My ex-boyfriend called at 2:10 a.m. because he never learned to check the clock. I didn't pick up. His voicemail said, "You're probably doing rounds. Call if you want," which is the opposite of useful. I put my head down on the desk and felt the laminate cool my forehead. The RA radio murmured. Somewhere upstairs, a shower squeaked and stopped. At 3:23 a.m., my phone lit with an email. Urgent, missing person. The subject line was a shrinking room. The email said, if you have seen or heard from freshman Lucas Bell in the last 2 hours, contact housing. It said, this is not a drill, like we were all in high school again. It said time sensitive, which is every moment, but fine. I stood. I said his name to the empty lobby just to hear what my mouth did with it. It sounded like a 2-syllable apology. What do you do with a promise as simple as be right back when the night decides to treat it like a dare? By 4 a.m., the residence hall lobby had that overexposed look buildings get when you keep the lights on too long. Campus police arrived with coffee and competence. Officer Patel asked me to show the sign-out sheet. Officer Kerr asked where the cameras blind. My hands shook as if someone had pointed a cold front at them. The duty phone pinged 3 times in 10 minutes. First, parents en route. Second, review footage. Third, coordinate with RA West. The winter air through the automatic doors smelled like a metal ruler. We watched the footage on the tiny monitor, the kind attached to the desk more for theater than utility. Lucas exiting, the front doors making their whoosh and sigh. The camera at the crosswalk stealing the rest of his face. Officer Patel asked for the full files. Camera safety promised them. The building pretended to be patient. I called Shay. She picked up on the second ring, already awake, voice soft with alarm. He texted me at 1, she said. Said he was going out for curly fries. I told him the diner was closed. She made a sound like a laugh that had been taught better manners. He said there was another place. What place? He didn't say. Was he meeting someone? Silence like snow. Maybe. The duty radio crackled. RA East, sit tight, we're pulling street cams. I thought about sitting tight as a verb, how the adverbless command doesn't let you name the part of your body that is supposed to obey. At 5:12 a.m., Lucas's mother called my personal phone because someone had given her my number or because grief can smell lanyards over long distances. Her voice had the clarity of a person who treats emergencies like pop quizzes. This is Naomi, she asked. I'm Lucas's mom. We're 20 minutes out. Tell me he's sleeping somewhere stupid. I said he might be, and hoped lying counts as CPR when that's all you have. They arrived at 5:31, wind-chapped and wearing the puffiest coats the Midwest makes. Lucas's father looked like a man who can fix appliances. He stared at the desk like it had an answer hidden inside. His mother, Kendra, held a folder like people do when they've never been asked to produce identification in their own lives. He'd have texted, even if Officer Kerr took them to a small room behind the desk, the one we use for meetings with the community standards coordinator when someone has confused a fire extinguisher for a decoration. He closed the door like mercy. Shay arrived at 6 a.m. with a hoodie over pajamas in a fury reserved for systems that forget people are made of warm things. She sat in the lobby chair and folded herself in half like she had to keep from tipping. She said he met someone last week, a guy selling a scooter on Marketplace. They talked about meeting at night to avoid traffic. He said it was a done plan. He said he'd bring me fries after. What guy? I don't know. The listing disappeared. The dining hall opened at 7, pretending eggs could handle this. The air changed from metal to butter. Students with backpacks stopped mid-stride when they saw the officers and then remembered they were supposed to be late for a different narrative. Someone cried in the stairwell and blamed the cold. By 9:15, campus blasted an alert. Missing student, last senior stayed in Hoover, gray hoodie, jeans, white sneakers. If you have information, call. Phones chimed like an orchestra tuning. A sophomore from my floor asked if classes were canceled. I stared until he said, "Right, sorry," and left the dignity he needed on the rug. I wrote my incident report in sentences so neat they could stand for inspection. Resident Lucas Bell exited South Quad at 0113. RA conducted rounds at 0140. Upon receiving missing person email at 3:23, RA contacted known associate, Shay, 4 West, and campus police. I included details like the vending machine theft as if the universe cares about $1 when it has to account for a person. At noon, Officer Patel asked me to walk State Street with him and see what my eyes recognized. The sky was the color of a good eraser. My breath made ghosts. We passed the diner with the neon sign that insists it's always open, though it is not. We passed the bus stop where students pretend to be small rectangles until the bus arrives. The corner camera hung like a bat from a lamppost. Patel pointed. "There," he said. "Frame 1326. He looks toward the shadow." "What shadow?" "Exactly." We turned down the hill toward the river. The ice creaked. The pedestrian bridge wore a dusting of snow like a dashed line. The frozen water reflected a light that made my teeth ache. Patel said, "Most nights I like my job." "And this one?" He didn't answer. We stood where the camera lost him and let the wind try our names. I tasted old coffee and something metallic. I thought of the sentence from my problem set. They saw her duck. How a verb can become a noun by proximity. How a boy can become a case by walking 10 feet out of a frame. I told Patel what I knew. Lucas had a habit of answering messages with pictures and not words. He trusted faces. He believed in proof he could zoom. He also hated to inconvenience people, even people in charge of keeping him. He would have shrugged if the person on the corner told him the fries were better downhill. Patel wrote that down. When we turned back toward the dorm, I saw my reflection in the diner window. RA jacket, hands jammed in pockets, jaw tight. I looked like a sentence that refuses to end. What do you become when you stand where someone left the story and all you can do is point at a comma? The first rumor arrived the way rumors do, via a text that began, "Not sure if this matters." A kid from the residence hall across the quad claimed he'd seen Lucas arguing with someone near the parking structure. Guy in a dark coat. Tall. Beard maybe. The adverbs did the heavy lifting. Maybe. Probably. Sort of. Officer Kerr smiled the way you do when you're kindly collecting snowflakes with a teaspoon. The second rumor had numbers. The blue light phone by the bridge had been activated at 2:02 a.m. The caller hung up after 2 seconds. Could have been a butt dial. Could have been a test. Could have been Lucas. I started a list in my RA notebook. Times, places, small truth that could grow muscles. 113 exit. 153 corner. Blue light 202. I added Shay, Marketplace scooter, and circled it hard. I typed curly fries and hated myself for giving the detail weight, then remembered that weight is just attention with persistence. Housing sent a dean with a calm voice and an email signature long enough to be a memoir. She set up in the lobby and said things like, "We see you," and "Take care of yourselves," and "There are resources." Students stood in line to be reassured. They asked if they could put up flyers on the bulletin boards and then didn't wait for the answer. By late afternoon, campus smelled like toner. Lucas's face replicated in grayscale. In his photo, he's holding a canoe paddle like the world is a lake that needs moving. His mother chose it because it looks like him, as opposed to student male number 24. She asked me, is it okay? And I said yes, because verbs don't have certification boards. At 5, a message popped into our RA group chat. Anyone else getting DMs from a number asking about what Lucas owed? 3 of us had. The area code was unfamiliar. The tone pretended professional. We represent a private party with interest in Mr. Bell's outstanding obligations. Obligations? Lucas paid his housing on time. He didn't own a scooter. He brought books and returned them smelling faintly like lake. I forwarded the message to Officer Patel. He wrote back, "Don't engage." Then, after a beat, forward numbers. Shay sat at the lobby table with a stack of flyers and a roll of blue painter's tape, because masking tape rips paint, and we are still people who care about our deposit. Her hands shook only when she stopped moving. "He would have called," she said to the table, to me, to the walls that had learned his footstep. "Even if he was embarrassed, he'd joke first. He'd make it easy." "What would embarrass him?" I asked. She made a face, needing help. At 7, patrol found Lucas's phone case in the snow under the pedestrian bridge. Not the phone, just the case. People online made rituals out of it in comment sections. He ditched it on purpose. Someone tossed it to throw off the search. I once dropped my phone out of my sleeve. The case had a sticker that said, "Support your local planet," which is the sort of joke you make when you love everything a little too much. I was supposed to host Mug Night, a floor event where everyone paints a ceramic mug and writes affirmations inside the handle. I canceled, without typing the word cancel. Students drifted to the lounges anyway and held on to each other, without admitting that was what they were doing. The vending machine ate $2 more. I kicked it and didn't feel mature. At 10:30, the dean with the calming signature advised us to return to routine. Routine is a thin blanket. We wrapped ourselves anyway. I did rounds. I checked doors. I confiscated a candle. In the stairwell, I paused where it smells like the memory of cigarettes and listened to the building breathe. On the landing, someone had written, "Where are you?" in dust with the fingertip. I wiped it away because I am an adult and superstition is a minor. Near midnight, I ran into Ezra, another RA, different building, carrying a box of granola bars like an apology. In case anyone needs sugar or feels like chewing keeps them from thinking. We compared notes. He'd heard about the blue light. I'd heard about the private party text. He told me about a group chat where someone said Lucas had been on a betting app. Football. He won money in December. Somebody wants it back. Lucas doesn't even like football, I said automatically. Though the truth is, he watched with the kind of social obligation. He always cheered at the right time. He loved being with people who knew when to stand. At 1 a.m., my phone vibrated with a notification from a campus forum. Found, gray hoodie by river. The attached photo showed a wet hoodie on a branch like a soft animal drying itself. My stomach folded. Officer Patel texted before my panic could crystallize. Not his. Different brand. Keep breathing. I sat on the lobby couch and listened to the building's ordinary noises. Boots, laughter, a microwave door, the quiet slam of a textbook. The radiator hissed the way old pipes confess. I drank from the RA mug that lives under the desk and tasted the ghost of someone else's tea. By 2 a.m., my log contained nothing but verbs. Called, checked, asked, resecured, forwarded. I wanted a noun that worked. Answer. I wrote Lucas again in my notebook because writing a name is a ceremony I still believe in. Outside, the river cracked politely. If suspicion is ladder, what's step 1? When the rungs are made of the things a boy would never do. Morning delivered a fact instead of a rumor. The last call on Lucas's phone at 1:49 a.m. went to a number registered to campus services, parking and transportation. The call lasted 42 seconds. He wasn't calling a friend. He was calling the service. Officer Kerr brought me the printout because he had learned that I calm when my hands hold paper. He called the Safe Ride line, Kerr said. The campus night shuttle. Then why was he walking? I asked. Because the new system is an app. The phone number routes to an automated menu. If you hit 0, it kicks you to a contracted rideshare. If the driver cancels, he let the sentence sit. Do the drivers call back? If they want 5 stars. Do we know if someone picked him up? We're checking. He looked tired in a way that didn't invite sympathy. Later, the rideshare company confirmed a ping at 1:52 a.m. near State and Hoover. A driver accepted, then canceled a minute later. Another driver accepted at 1:54. The app shows a car icon approaching. At 1:57, the rider canceled. Reason unknown. So, Lucas tried to go legit. He tried to be safe. The system did what systems do, decided his safety didn't make financial sense for 1 minute. He canceled at 1:57, which meant he was still there, at the corner, when the person from the camera stood just out of frame like a parentheses. The twist wasn't the app. It was the cross-reference officer Patel made with a different database. Marketplace meetups scheduled that week near campus. A campus safety officer had access to the Safe Exchange program, 10 recommended meetup spots with cameras and good lighting. One reservation was flagged for 2 a.m. Item, electric scooter. Buyer, L. Bell. Seller, account named Oak_River. Location, Underhill Lot, Camera 3. Lucas booked a safe meetup and then didn't go to the safe place. Patel said his face had the expression of a man who knows how many times this sentence has been true. Underhill Lot closes at midnight, I said. They lock the gate. Exactly. We pulled the camera from Underhill Lot, Camera 3. At 1:57, the gate was empty. At 1:58, a sedan paused at the curb and didn't turn in because it couldn't. At 2:01, it drove away. At 2:03, the same sedan idled on State Street across from the corner where Lucas had stood. The driver learned what our freshmen already knew. Gates are suggestions. We traced the sedan backward through intersections until it lost its shyness and revealed a plate. The plate belonged to a car share program, the kind that lets you unlock a Civic with an app. The account on the reservation? Oak River, paid with a prepaid card. Patel leaned back in his chair like his joints had opinions. They used our own safety infrastructure to guide him to a blind corner. They told him the safe lot was closed, so meet here instead. I tasted aluminum and regret. Is he not a conclusion we draw today? He lifted the printout. This is the day we visit every car share lot within 2 miles and ask for logs and camera angles. I went back to South Quad and found Shay asleep at the lobby couch with the flyer on her chest like armor. I covered her with the RA Lost and Found blanket and sat at the desk and watched the front door in case someone I loved learned how to be miraculous. At noon, the dean with a signature called a community conversation in the lounge. Students sat on beanbags and asked for assurances no one could give. A kid from my floor with the blue rugby tattoo asked if the university would fund more blue lights. Someone else asked for more patrols, more cameras, more something. I thought about how cameras keep records of endings better than beginnings. When the meeting adjourned with free cookies, a first year lingered by the window and said to the glass, he texted me at 1:30, "Still hungry?" I didn't answer. I was asleep. He looked at me terrified I'd hand him blame. I didn't. I handed him a cookie. He cried anyway. That night, I dreamed I was a streetlight. I woke before dawn with a taste of cold on my tongue and the sense that I had learned one new fact about a system that pretends to be a friend. It will meet you halfway, then cancel. If the first twist is that safety wears an app, what happens when the icon turns into a car you can't quite reach? The university installed a hotline and a command center, and the phrase all hands. Volunteers showed up in layers. Students, neighbors, retired professors who needed to be useful. We printed maps and drew circles, like children learning geography. I took the 2 to 4 a.m. shift, handing out coffee and hope. Both went cold quickly and still did their jobs. Shay lived at the desk with me now. She had a spreadsheet. She had a voice message saved from Lucas in October where he said, "Bring your face to the study room," and laughed. She played it twice an hour and then apologized and then played it again. When he's nervous, she said to no one, he tells a joke that has an apology built in. On day 4, a tip. A delivery driver saw a gray hoodie get into a dark sedan near the river at 2:06 a.m. The driver remembered because he nearly clipped them with a too aggressive turn. He hadn't called it in because the world produces a lot of gray hoodies. We put a pin in the map anyway. It looked like we were decorating for a party the city forgot to attend. Campus police found the car share sedan parked in a lot near the stadium with a new reservation on it, someone else, the normal turn. They pulled the black box. The last occupant before the switch had driven 3.4 miles, idled for 11 minutes, then returned. The 11 minutes pulsed like a bruise. The route lines on the screen formed a loop that brushed the river, the train tracks, an industrial lot with a fence with the hole shaped like a human compromise. We walked the loop in daylight because our bodies had learned not to trust 2 a.m. anymore. The industrial lot smelled like old oil and stubbornness. A stray cat looked at us like we owed it money. The fence hole was there, at ankle height, then widened, a place where metal had been pressed, released, pressed again. It reminded me of the trick our courtyard kid, Tessa, had used under chain link in another story I had read online and wished I hadn't. I crouched, pressed a knuckle to the bright metal, and felt the burrs catch my glove. Officer Patel squatted beside me and said nothing, which is a sentence. We didn't find Lucas there. We found a wrapper from a curly fry brand the diner on State uses when it pretends to be open late. We found footprints that belonged to a boot bigger than mine. We found the absence of a boy and the presence of a plan. The rideshare company produced driver logs faster now that a lawyer introduced himself. 2 drivers, both night owls, both shrug-prone, admitted to accepting and canceling at 152 and 153. The pickup note said, "Underhill lot, and that place is a pain." One said, "The gate's always locked. I didn't want the hit on my time." The second said, "Guy texted he'd walk to State. I said okay, and he canceled. Happens." Officer Kerr's jaw worked like he was chewing on policy. Shay mapped every cancellation the app had recorded within a mile of campus in the last month. The dots made a shape you could call a coincidence if you were superstitious about patterns. A cluster near the river crossing, a line along the train, a halo around the stadium. The algorithm wasn't malicious, it was indifferent, which is worse for soft things. Housing asked us to resume programming because stability matters. I hosted Mug Night. 10 students painted mugs with words like breathe and hydrate in shaky cursive. One wrote "don't cancel" in block letters around the rim. I didn't grade it. On the 5th night, the RA radio popped with a tone we've only heard in drills. All units, welfare check, abandoned structure, call from anonymous, tip. The address, an old boiler building near the tracks. We stayed at the desk because we are not police. We watched the front door like it could deliver an ending. The lobby smelled like pencil shavings and stale cocoa. At 3:11 a.m., Officer Patel called my cell. He said, "We found something," and his voice didn't tell me whether to brace for impact or relief. "A body?" I asked, and hated myself for how the word arrived so easily. "No," he said, "shoes. His." I closed my eyes. I pictured Lucas's white sneakers dotted with river accident salt from December. He had drawn a tiny star on one heel because he's the kind of person who annotates his life. Where? On the 2nd floor, lined up neatly, like he left them to dry. Was he there? No. Shay was sitting next to me. I didn't translate. She could hear both sides in my face. She put her head down on the table. "He never leaves shoes anywhere," she said into the laminate. "He's a neat freak. He wipes his skateboard wheels when he brings it in. He'd line them up." Officer Kerr texted a photo. White sneakers, side by side, damped. Next to them, a smart water bottle with a label peeled halfway, a habit I had seen Lucas do when he was thinking. The label curled like a shrug. The tip that led them there came from a phone booth of a kind our campus no longer has. Someone used a VoIP app and routed it through nostalgia. The voice was altered, but the message was precise. Check the old boiler. 2nd floor, north room. He left something. It felt like an invitation sent to the whole city. Escalation felt like that, like being led by someone who thinks puzzles are a kindness. I started keeping a second list in my notebook. Who benefits from a maze? The answer column stayed blank because I'm good at questions, but not magic. The administration announced a town hall. Parents clutched coffee. The president of the university used the word community, like he could throw a rope across the river. Students asked for later hours on Safe Ride and a human at the number, not a menu. A protest formed outside. "Don't cancel us. We're not data. Safe means pick up." My residents hold signs with shaky hands and learned that chanting is a verb you can do even if your voice shakes. That evening, I walked to the river alone because I'm reckless in socially acceptable ways. The ice hummed. I stood on the pedestrian bridge and tried to make my body understand the boy-shaped absence under the sound. A train passed, slow, like a giant counting to 10. I whispered, "Be right back," to the water and to myself. Behind me, a cough. I turned. A man in a dark coat stood at the end of the bridge, hands in pockets, face ordinary. He cleared his throat like a lecturer. "It's cold," he said. "It's January," I said, and my brain began the inventory of height
eye color, beard, shoes, the way his shoulders chose his coat. He nodded, as if I had offered him a fact he could use later. "Be careful at night," he said without warmth. Then he walked away, and my heart did the thing it does when it thinks it has narrowly missed its own ending.
I went back to the dorm. I wrote "man on bridge," ordinary in my notebook, then crossed out ordinary because I don't believe in that adjective anymore. When the stakes rise, even kindness feels like choreography. How long can you keep dancing before the music asks the proof? On the 7th day, a blogger with a name like a dare emailed Shay and me. "I can help find him. Meet me. Don't tell police." He had screenshots of group chats, rumors about bets, a theory about a campus club that trades dares for status. He wrote like a person who thinks ellipses increase truth. Officer Patel had already warned us about vigilantes. "They build narrative towers out of toothpicks," he said. "Looks impressive until the wind shows up." Shay wanted to meet. "What if he knows something?" she asked, her voice a cracked plate. "What if he wants clicks?" I countered. My throat tasted like pennies. "We tell Patel, or we don't go." We chose tell Patel. He said, "I'll sit 3 tables away. You can have your scoop and your spine." I pictured him behind a newspaper like an undercover cop from a movie, and a different part of my brain wanted to laugh. I didn't, because humor has a social cost and lobby lighting. We met the blogger at the diner that pretends to be open. The fryers hissed, the air smelled like salt and apology. He wore a beanie and an expression that asks you to teach it empathy. He slid his phone across the table. Group chats, dares, clips of students doing stupid, adrenaline-forward things for upvotes or cash. Lucas's name didn't appear, but the phrase Underhill Swap did, as a shorthand for after midnight exchange when the lot is closed, like the city had its own folklore. Someone with the handle Oak River posted a guide, the blogger said, proud. "How to make a safe meetup less boring. He runs the game." "Game," Shay repeated, as if it were a slaw. The blogger nodded. "It's not kidnapping if everyone plays." "Get out," I said before my mouth could get permission from my better manners. He left. Patel paid our bill without being asked and said, "I'll look into the handle, go home." The choice was really this: keep playing detective or stay on my side of the lantern. I wanted both. I chose the second out loud and the first in my bones, which is how you get in trouble without meaning to. I went back to the dorm and wrote Oak AK River equals game in my notebook. I drew a small oak leaf that looked like a bad hand. Then I put my pen down and practiced being a person whose job ends at the desk. When the middle of the maze offers you a shortcut labeled story, do you take it if you promised other people you wouldn't? The pressured, intense voice tightening. The unraveling began with a break in a place that wasn't ours, a suburb west of campus, where a car share lot had been broken into for the 3rd time in 2 months. The city cops there pulled their own cameras, bored. Patel asked for a copy, because boredom is often where puzzles trip. At 1:25 a.m., the week Lucas vanished, the footage showed a person in a gray hoodie, not Lucas's, too short, unlocking a car, idling, and then leaving a flyer on the windshield of 3 other cars. The flyer read, "Oak River Swaps, after hours, DM for rules." The QR code routed to a disappearing chat channel with a photo of the river at night as its banner. "Not a buyer, a host," Patel said. "They've been recruiting drivers who like empty lots." The second twist was the handle, Oak River, wasn't a person. It was a collective. 3, maybe 4 students or former students running a dare and trade ring where the currency was cash and video clips. Meetups were filmed for clout, a word that made the dean's mouth twitch. Most swaps were low stakes: shoes, speakers, edibles. 2 involved scooters. One thread was labeled Kingfisher, their nickname for the bridge drop at the river, where the brave, or stupid, tossed contraband to a partner on the lower path and filmed the arc. Lucas had messaged the channel once 5 days before he disappeared. "Scooter battery dying. Worth it?" The reply from Oak River was, "If you want it fast plus cheap, meet after hours. Safer." Safer. Patel found the condo address tied to one of the prepaid cards funding Oak River. Leaseholder, a graduate student named Derek Hale, who had withdrawn from the university in October. He listed freelance logistics as his occupation and owned a drone. His Instagram was a catalog of the city at night, captions like "soft light, sharp edges."
The drone footage sometimes panned over the river, skimming the bridge where the blue light had blinked. Karan Patel knocked, Hal opened like he expected company. He was polite. He offered water. He said he'd heard about the boy and found it tragic. He denied operating any handle. He consented to a search with a shrug that said innocence or arrogance, pick your favorite. They found boxes of merchandise, QR code stickers, a gray hoodie, and a script typed, laminated, hole-punched, Oak River Playbook, safety, ethics, liability. The first rule, never touch. The fifth, if the lot is closed, use state, cameras blind in SE corner. The last, we're a game, not a crime. The drone log showed flights over the river the night Lucas vanished. Hill said he likes the ice. He said the camera shakes when it's cold. He said a lot of things. We still didn't have Lucas. Hell's phone produced a thread with Oak River sharing meetup time with someone saved as LB. The last message from LB. Here, where are you? Timestamp 1:56 a.m. Stay in Hoover. Oak River replied, 2 min, SE corner. The corner where the camera fails. Patel read the messages and did the math behind his eyes. They lured him to a blind spot to film a dare, a trade, and anything. Maybe it went wrong, maybe it didn't. But this isn't random. He turned to me because I was in the room. Because somehow I'd earned the seat at this ugliest table. I need you to tell me if Lucas would abandon someone mid-adventure. Never, I said. Voice first, heart second. He'd stay until the mess was over. Shay said the same thing later in the lobby, hands flat on the table like she could keep it from floating away. He's the guy who carries the heavy end. He apologizes if you bumps a chair. He says sorry to the air. The unraveling accelerated. A freshman from another dorm cried to his RA and confessed he'd been running Oak River errands for cash, dropping QR code stickers, scouting blind corners, filming swaps from behind trees. He led police to a stash under the stadium steps, phones and baggies, not stolen, borrowed, labeled with tape and timestamps. The plan was to return them after editing clips for the channel. Borrow the phone, borrow the night, read a sticky note. Lucas's phone wasn't there. What was there was the scooter from the listing, its serial number shaved, the battery replaced. There was a piece of paper with LB150 written in pen and then scratched out. There was a smart water cap. Hale lawyered up. The university sent a statement about independent actors. The town Facebook group did what it does, knitted a comforter out of conjecture. The river thawed 2 shades lighter. And then, a small mercy with sharp edges. A parking enforcement officer, one of the quiet heroes of every campus, reviewed her plate reader logs and flagged the sedan that had idled illegally at 2:08 a.m. in a no-standing zone 2 blocks from the stadium. She remembered because she wrote a ticket and then voided it when she saw the driver crying. She said his friend was in trouble. He said he'd canceled a ride. He said he didn't know what to do. The driver, a sophomore named Marcus, one of Hale's camera kids. He had accepted the second ride request at 1:54 a.m., then canceled when Oak River told him the meetup was handled. He drove to the stadium anyway and waited, panicking because his stomach had a conscience. He saw Hale approach with a boy that matched Lucas's hoodie. He saw them talk. He saw the boy hand him his phone. He saw the boy step back, laugh, wave his hands like he was trying to unring a bell. He saw Hale point toward the river path like someone giving directions to a tourist. He saw the boy jag away with his hood up. He didn't see him return. Why didn't you call then? Patel asked. Marcus looked 20 and awful. Because I thought it was a game. I wrote a sentence in my notebook that looked like an answer and felt like an accusation. He handed over the phone. If the second twist is that the game stole not just a boy, but the part of the night that would have remembered him, what can a person with a lanyard do except keep writing the time? The river gave him back. Not the way I feared, not the worst way. It offered his phone, lodged in a grate near the lower path 3 days after Marcus's confession. The case was gone, the sticker was not. The last video on it was 71 seconds of shaky night. A hand, a sneaker, a laugh that belonged to Lucas but sounded like it had borrowed someone else's breath. The camera pans, a voice says, "Okay, now the drop, Kingfisher, go." The view dips, the phone looks over the railing into the dark. A second voice, Hale's, I'd recognize it later, says, "No, lower, get the angle." Lucas says, "Dude, I'm not dropping my phone." The video ends with a single frame of ice-like black glass and a sharp "no" that is either a word or the wind.
Patel's face when he watched it looked like a door that refuses to open the same way twice. "He didn't jump," he said aloud to the room, to the part of my chest that had been bracing for a funeral. "He didn't go in. He just leaned." We scoured the path with a dozen volunteers and a drone. We found drag marks in the snow where a small body could have slipped or been pulled. We found nothing the law would accept as proof. Hell cracked the next day, not to us, not to police, but to himself. He posted a private apology to the OK River channel, which someone screenshotted before he deleted it. Line crossed. No more night drops. We're out. I'm out. It was the apology equivalent of wiping your mouth and saying you're full. Patel got a warrant. We went back to Hell's condo with boxes and bags. In a closet, we found a backpack that wasn't his, Lucas's, based on the small star drawn inside the strap. Inside, class notes, gum, a student ID with a corner chewed, a bag of curly fries, now a fossil. Shay sat on my couch that night and held the backpack like you hold a cat that doesn't know who you are yet. She said, "He never goes anywhere without this, not even to the bathroom if he's studying." I laughed and then cried and then laughed again, which is a thing your body does when you're trying to be a bridge and remember you're a person. The puzzle piece that closed the loop came, again, from a mundane hero, the parking cashier at the stadium lot. She remembered a boy with wet cuffs running past the booth at 2:20 a.m., breathless, laughing, saying, "I'm fine, it's a bet." She remembered because she yelled, "You can't cut through," and he yelled back, "I'm a fish," which made her laugh in spite of herself. She had written the time down as a joke on a Post-it, 2:20, fish. Lucas hadn't been taken at the corner. He had chosen the lower path, phone in hand, to film a brag he didn't even want. He argued with Hale and then done it anyway because group gravity is stronger than any app's ethics. He'd slipped or been grabbed or panicked and dropped the phone. He scrambled up the embankment and ran toward the stadium because his body was confused and alive. After 2:20, the trail ended like a sentence that someone forgot to finish. The last map we printed had one thick circle around the stadium lot and 3 arrows, bridge to fish to lot. We canvassed the neighborhood for cameras. One doorbell caught him at 2:23 trotting past, hoodie up, a grin still attached to adrenaline. Another caught the sedan Hale had used, parked and empty. A third, the jackpot, caught Lucas turning down an alley and stopping in front of a locked gate. He rattled it, made a face, turned, and faced someone emerging from a side door. A man in a dark coat, ordinary, carrying a trash bag. They spoke. Lucas pointed toward the stadium, then toward State. The man nodded, stepped aside, and let Lucas pass through the service entrance. He saved him 30 seconds and a detour. He held a door. We found the man. That part of the story ends kindly. He was a janitor, late 50s, night shift, a person whose job is to hold cities together where no one looks. He remembered the wet cuffs. He remembered the boy saying thanks. He remembered handing him a napkin. He remembered thinking, kids. He watched Lucas jog down the corridor toward the south exit. He watched him turn the corner. He never saw him again. In the south exit camera, the blind spot covered 15 feet of hallway where the old building refused to angle the lens. Lucas enters. He doesn't exit. The maintenance log, though, oh sweet mundane, shows a fire door 6 feet past the camera had been propped and failed to alarm because the sensor was on backlog for replacement. That door opens into a service stair that opens into the parking level where car shares nap. At 2:27 a.m., a car share sedan tapped its app, opened, closed, and left. Hale was already in custody. The driver this time was Marcus, the panicked sophomore, who confessed in a sobbing cascade. Hale told him to relocate the car for a reset. He did. He swore he didn't see Lucas. Patel believed him because the log supported it. Marcus's car left empty. Another sedan on the same account left 90 seconds later. Who drove that one? Hale's roommate, Kellen, who was asleep during earlier interviews, but whose phone betrayed his 2:28 a.m. ignition. Kellen said he was moving the car for parking reasons. He said he thought the night was part of the content. He said he didn't look in the back seat. The camera didn't see him open the back door because the camera was mounted stupid. But a gas station 2 miles away caught the sedan at 2:36 a.m. Driver alone, backseat empty.
Somewhere in those miles, Lucas got out, on purpose or by design. Which, we found the answer 3 days later when a neighbor whose dog wakes him at 3 a.m. finally reviewed his backyard camera and called the number on the flyer. At 2:31 a.m., Lucas climbed over a fence behind a row of garages, landed badly, limped, laughed, why body, and sat on a stoop. He pulled out a phone. It wasn't his. It was a campus services loaner from an earlier repair, and tried to call a number that didn't connect. He stood, adjusted his hoodie, and walked toward the light of the corner store. 1 minute later, he vanished into a glare created by the store's sign and a camera's cheap lens. The clerk remembered a wet kid who asked for a towel. He gave him one. He turned to ring up a trucker buying coffee. When he turned back, the kid was gone. Gone into the dawn, not the river. Gone to a bus already idling, warming for the morning, the driver on his break, door propped. The dash cam from the bus, bless the city's unfashionable procurement, shows a boy in a gray hoodie sit in the back, rub his ankle, call someone, hang up, and fall asleep. The route started at 3:05 a.m. The driver didn't notice. He left the lights low for the heat. At 4:10 a.m., the bus pulled into the far depot. At 4:12 a.m., the boy woke, startled, waved at the driver, and walked into the depot lobby. There is no camera there, budget, but there is a logbook where the overnight guard writes down nothing because he was in the bathroom. When he returned at 4:18 a.m., the lobby was empty. The depot faces a freeway on-ramp and a motel with weekly rates. The motel manager, blessedly bored, confirmed one walk-in at 4:22, young, wet, limping, paid cash for a room until noon. He checked out at 10:07, left behind a smart water cap and a towel. The clerk said he looked like he'd won a dare. The last camera, a city traffic cam at the on-ramp, showing a boy with a backpack, his backpack recovered later, sticking out his thumb at 10:15 a.m. A van stopped. He shook his head. He laughed. He started walking instead. The camera loses him in the glare. Lucas didn't die that night. He didn't get taken into a trunk. He got away from the game, from the campus, from the version of himself that apologizes for wet cuffs. He caught a bus to Detroit at noon. A camera confirmed it. He texted Shay at 12:04 a.m. from a new number. I messed up. Need space. Be back. Promise. The text failed to deliver because the number had parental controls he forgot about. Patel read the last line of the last printout and exhaled like a man who had been waiting to breathe in front of witnesses. He's alive, he said. He ran. If the climax is that the boy you promised to keep didn't need saving in the way you trained for, what do you do with the part of you that still wants to check the river?
They found Lucas 2 days later in a bus station in Toledo, sitting on a bench eating a vending machine cinnamon roll like a sacrament. He had a sprained ankle and 1,000-yard stare, and a story that made sense only if you've ever been 19 and felt your life turn into a dare without your explicit consent. He said, I thought the game could be my story for a minute. He said, when the phone fell, it felt like permission to stop performing. He said, I didn't know how to come back without apologizing to everyone at once, so I didn't. He said it to Patel and to his mother and to me because I was in the room he came back to, R.A. lanyard and all, and because the hall smelled like noodle soup and dry erase marker again, which is to say, alive. Hale and Kellen were charged. Reckless endangerment, tampering, a buffet of fraud. The university dissolved OKRV by lawsuit and installed human operators on the safe ride line. The dean's email signature got longer. The blogger wrote a think piece and then deleted it when the comments forgot he was a person. Shay held Lucas's hand in the lobby and told him to stop being interesting in ways that make her heart old. He promised nothing, which is a new kind of honesty. He apologized to me for being a case, and I told him he'd always been a person. He cried in the stairwell and didn't blame the cold. At our next RA meeting, I asked for a budget line item for boring. More desk hours, more lights, fewer blank cameras, a new lock for the fire door, mugs that say pick up the phone around the rim. They approved half of it, which is how progress dresses. I went back to linguistics and finished the problem set. They saw her duck. Noun and verb, both true, depending on what you need at the moment. Lucas was both.
Boy in story, resident in rumor, gone and here. Some sentences don't resolve, they breathe. The river thawed, the refrigerator hum of campus returned. The vending machine finally spat out the dollars it owed, all at once like a confession. I laughed alone at the desk, tasted cocoa, and texted my ex to stop calling me at 2 a.m. He wrote back, "Okay, lowercase, a small mercy." I slept for 8 hours and dreamed of street lights that changed their mind and focus on beginnings instead. Resolution is learning which doors to prop with your foot and which to let close.
I used to picture safety as a lanyard, a list, a laminated flowchart. Now I think it's 1,000 tiny acts, a driver who doesn't cancel because it's inconvenient, a camera angled to catch arrivals instead of exits, a friend who answers a text at 1:30 and says, "Go home," instead of "What's the content?" Lucas left and came back by his own map. We didn't rescue him. We found the breadcrumbs he dropped while deciding what kind of person he wanted to be when he grew tired of being asked to perform. I won't pretend that makes me less angry at the people who sell dares under the label game. They built a maze and charged admission, then acted surprised when a boy got lost inside. Being an RA is not being a hero. It's being a witness with keys. It's making sure the kettle works in the lounge and that the fire door alarms the next time it's propped. It's calling a mom at 5:31 a.m. and promising nothing except that you will stay until the story is finished or until the shift ends, whichever happens first. Lucas says he's done with night games. I believe him like I believe winter will forget us for a few months and then remember. I still walk to the river sometimes and listen to the ice make its poems. I count my residents at midnight the way you count breaths. I like the sound of a lobby at 2 a.m., the radiator, the vending machine, the laughter from upstairs, because it means everyone I'm responsible for is, for now, contained by walls. That's not safety, but it's a start I can sign my name under. Firm, conclusive, leaving a lasting echo. Sometimes I still replay the footage and stop it one frame before he leaves the corner, just to prove I can. Then I press play, let him walk out, and trust the next camera to catch him where I couldn't.